vertical right there. On July 4th, we were on top of Shoshone John, and it was over there that we got the idea to climb this peak. Well, we have a couple of sporting Class 3 pitches on the Dolomite Rock as we scramble up the ridge the last couple of 100 feet. We really came here to see the corals. There are two different kinds. The one outlined with the iron calcite, and then the other in flint or quartz. Here's part of a horn coral. Look at that big hunker in the rock. It's all part of a coral. Here's another one, or another part of the coral. We're just right below the summit of Black and White, and that's where the best corals seem to be in the Lemhi Range, right at the summit. The only trouble is the summit in this section of Lemhi's is not very easy to get to. See what I mean? As we look north to Riddler, Diamond Peak, Shoshone John. I think we'll try descending down this canyon to the north of this east ridge. See how it goes. This is the east ridge, and we've come up Middle Fork Pass Creek, and we're looking to Birch Creek Valley and the Beaverhead Range with Copper Mountain and Skull Canyon immediately across the way. Looking across to the flank of Little Diamond, you see where the rock changes color. Ross calls all of that rock Brazier limestone, and he assigns it to the upper Mississippian era. That means the fossils found in this rock would be approximately 300 million years old. In the 1950s, he was not further able to define the stratigraphy. We're looking at our summit, just a little scramble away. With this iron calcite layer that's right at the crest, probably could be considered a separate layer. How it dates, I don't know. In geology, supposedly the rocks on the top are the youngest. Isn't that something, that rocks on the surface are 300 million years old, and that other rocks were not able to accumulate? There's nothing from the Mesozoic era, the age of dinosaurs, in this particular section of the range. And the soils, the scant soils, would be the only thing from the Cenozoic, the New Age. So that does give us a clue that the mountains have been uplifted, because new rock has not been forming. It's just the old rock being pushed up. So much for theories. The concept of space and time is mind-boggling. We've been talking about undersea life the whole day, and in fact 300 million years ago this all was a shallow saltwater sea. Idaho wasn't even at 45 degrees north and 117 degrees west. At that time, the tectonic plate that was Idaho was equatorial, somewhere around the area of Western Africa. And the sea at that time, being warm and favorable to life, teemed with life, and the whole way up we just see shattered remnants of what was must have been life 300 million years ago. This shell is probably a brachiopod. Ross and his men found a lot of these in the mid-1950s during their reconnaissance. Summit. Well, let's figure out which is the high point here or over there. For sure, the brand new USGS 7.5 minute topographical map is not going to help us, because that map shows an erroneous elevation of 11,970. They were off by 1,000 feet. Ross's reconnaissance, if you'll remember, was all done with aerial photography. He admits that they didn't explore this area on foot. And let's go take a look at that other point right now. I guess we'll go back over there and build a cairn. From the south, let's take a look at some of our beloved peaks. Mount Hoops, Tyler Peak, Striped Peak, Shrill, Dome. In front of us, Little Diamond Peak, main crest of the Lemhi Range. We're the first peak north of Little Diamond. From Little Diamond, we have a series of offset Lemhi peaks to the west. Sunny Bar Peak, Joker Peak, and at 11,051 feet, a quartzite mountain, Nicholson Peak. Bunting Canyon, which opens up into Badger Creek, is one of the best examples of a glacial valley in the Lemhi Range. We look out into the Little Lost River Valley towards Summit Pass, and we see that weather is moving in. To our north, Bell Mountain. In front of the Bell on the left is Amy's Peak, to the right is Lexi's Peak. At Meadow Peak, the Incredible Hulk, the Riddler, and Diamond Peak, which we believe was first climbed in the 1940s. As we found, there is scant climbing history in the Lemhi Range, and we will leave our name and an indication of that right now on the top of Black and White Peak. Black and White Peak completes a series of first ascents on the main crest of the Lemhi Range. No peaks south of Gilmore remain unclimbed. Rick Bogger, Idaho Falls, Idaho, Kyrie eleison, Lord have mercy. So come on up and sign in sometime. Although if you decide to climb this peak, I'd make sure that the conditions are dry. This would not be a peak you'd want to try to climb when it's wet, for a number of reasons which we've alluded to. Our Lost River Peaks, King Mountain, South Twin, North Twin, and this is embarrassing, I can't show you which one, but right in there is an 11,724 foot peak, which we were the first to climb a couple of weeks ago, and we are suggesting that it be named Clyde Ross Peak in honor of the Dean of Idaho Geologists, Clyde Polhemus Ross. And to orient you, Holly Mountain, and directly behind Holly Mountain is Bora Peak. Just before we head down, I wanted to make sure we got one last good view of the 11,051 foot Nicholson Peak, and that was first climbed in the spring of last year, I believe. It's a peak that you can climb fairly early in the year, and we're suggesting a name for Orville and Rhea Nicholson, who have a dairy farming operation right at the base of that peak. They make the earth look so green and sweet from the top of that mountain. Again, it is a unique quartzite summit in these here parts, Nicholson Peak. From the upper Little Lost River Valley, it can be mistaken many times for Diamond Peak. It is a very prominent peak. We will bid our peak adieu as we descend to the north. Black and White Peak. We'll have to proceed with care down this scree fan. It may be that there are a couple of cliff bands down there that we can't see. These horn corals are being preserved in their matrix or surrounding limestone rock. Eventually, though, they will weather out, so you can just pick them up. If you're around in a couple 100,000 years, maybe. If we still have a planet by then. This one might be a tropical fish. Remember, these were equatorial warm waters. See the fins going towards the mouth. Actually, it would be a jawless armored fish. Those were the first kind on the planet. Those of you interested in climbing routes, this is the Northeast Couloir or Gully of Black and White, and it's a tolerably good descent route. It would be horrible having to go up that. I think the way we came up was the best. And we have some wonderful rock formations with that black desert varnish, which means water. There is a little water trickling over there, the only running water we have seen at this point. A syncline, or a sink. When the rock folds over on itself, it's called a recumbent. And we're headed down canyon, Middle Fork, past creek. It almost looks glacial, doesn't it, with the U shape, except for those cliff bands on the side. When I look at stuff like this, I have more questions than answers. What kind of organism was that? There's a better view of recumbent faulting. And we're heading down to our first trees, always a welcome sight. We've talked a lot about geologist Clyde P. Ross today. Let's not forget the pioneer geologist of this area, Joseph B. Umpleby, whose surveys were conducted 1910 to 1913. He was more of an economic geologist that is interested in finding minerals. And what he found in this range, or what was found in this range, was lead, silver, and copper, primarily. Close, but not quite. That's an almost lake. You see the glacial moraine would have dammed up the water, but the limestone is way too porous, and I imagine in times of greater moisture that would have been a lake. See the white rump of a deer? Well, as they say, it's about time to do a wrap. Hope you've enjoyed this geological tour and exploration in the Lemhi range of Idaho. I sure did enjoy having you along. Thank you. This is Rick Bogger.